This tutorial is for 1st grade, Module 6, Lesson 2. In this lesson, we're going to continue using the read, draw, write process for answering word problems, and we're using tape diagrams as our visual representation of those word problems. The first problem says, Nick baked 5 pies for the contest. Peter baked 3 more pies than Nick. How many pies did Peter bake for the contest? We'll start by writing an answer statement and include a blank where the final answer will belong in that statement. By doing this first, we know what the goal of the problem is. So the question says, how many pies did Peter bake for the contest? Our statement will then say Peter baked blank pies for the contest. Now we have to find the number that would fill in that blank. If I go back to my problem, it says Nick baked 5 pies and Peter baked 3 more pies. That means that Nick would have the shorter tape because Peter baked more than Nick. So we'll start by showing Nick for the top tape. And we know that he baked 5 pies. So from here to here on this tape, we know that that represents 5. For Peter, the information we know is he baked 3 more pies than Nick. So if we look at where Nick's tape stopped and the part of Peter's tape that's more than Nick's, we know that that more than section is 3 pies because he baked 3 more pies than Nick's. These two portions of the tapes are the same. So if Nick has 5 pies there, then this part of Peter's tape would also be 5 pies. If they bake the same amount, they both have 5, but Peter baked 3 more. So we just have to add the two sections together to find the total that Peter baked. Well, 5 plus 3 is 8. So that tells me Peter baked 8 pies for the contest. The number sentence that would match this is 5 plus 3 equals 8. Question number 2 says Emily planted 12 flowers. Rose planted 3 fewer flowers than Emily. How many flowers did Rose plant? Again, we'll start by writing our answer statement. It would answer this question. How many flowers did Rose plant? Well, Rose planted blank flowers. Now we'll figure out which person belongs to which tape. Since Emily planted 12 and Rose planted 3 fewer flowers, that means that Rose would have the smaller tape and Emily would have the longer tape. So we'll put Emily on top and then Rose. Now let's fill in some numbers. Emily planted 12 flowers, so we'll say her entire tape from here to here is 12 flowers. Rose planted 3 fewer flowers, so that means the difference between the two tapes would be 3. So this dotted section represents how many fewer flowers Rose planted. Now, if they had planted the same amount, they both have 12, but Rose's tape stops right here. But I do know that the amount that she planted plus the 3 fewer would equal the same amount as Emily's. That means I just need to figure out, well, what number do I match up with 3 to give that 12 total? Well, 9 plus 3 would give me 12. That means that Rose planted 9 flowers because that's 3 less than 12. So Rose planted 9 flowers. The number sentence I can use could be, starting with the total that Emily had, subtract the 3 less than her total, and that will give us 9. Or we could start off with the 3 fewer that Rose had, plus the missing number 9, which would have given us the same amount as Emily. So either number sentence would be correct. Question number 3 says Ben scored 15 goals in the soccer game. Andy scored 11 goals. How many more goals did Ben make than Andy? Again, we'll start with the statement. So the question says, how many more goals did Ben make than Andy? We'll say Ben made blank more goals than Andy. Now let's start filling in our tape. Well, since Ben scored more goals, then we're going to assign the top tape to Ben because that's longer, and that means the bottom tape will match up with Andy. And we know that Ben scored 15 goals, and we know that Andy scored 11 goals. This missing portion would tell us how many more goals Ben scored compared to Andy, meaning this part of Ben's tape shows us how many more goals he scored. If the tapes were the same size, this portion of Ben's tape would be 11. So what do I match up with 11 to get the total of 15? Well, that would be 4. That means that Ben scored 4 more goals than Andy. And I can write a subtraction problem to prove that. 15 goals minus the 11 that Andy scored equals 4, and that's the difference between the number of goals scored by both boys. Let's look at one more question. This one says Kim grew 12 roses in a garden. Fran grew 6 fewer roses than Kim. How many roses did Fran grow in the garden? Our statement will be Fran grew blank roses in the garden. Now let's fill in the tape. Well, we know that Kim grew 12 roses and Fran grew 6 fewer. That means that Kim grew more, so we'll give Kim the longer tape and Fran the shorter tape. We also know that Kim grew 12 roses, so we'll mark that on her tape, and that means from here to here would be 12. And we know that Fran grew 6 fewer roses, so this dotted box represents the missing portion, or the 6 fewer roses that were grown. So if the whole tape is 12 and I take away the 6 fewer, that would leave this part of the tape, or Fran's tape. Well, 12 minus 6 is 6, and that tells us that Fran grew 6 roses in the garden. The number sentence to match would be the 12 that Kim grew minus the 6 fewer, which leaves us with the 6 that Fran grew. And again, using the tape diagram as that visual representation will help the children see what's actually going on in the word problem.